All right, and we are now live, and I want to welcome everyone to our Monday edition of Bizapalooza Chat. I'm Ivana Taylor, your host today and every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And every week we dig down deep into the things that are really important to small business owners. And today I have a very, very special guest from all the way across the pond. We've got Thomas Power. Thomas, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Ivana. Thank you.
That's right. We are on a delay, so meaning that I'm going to say something and then like 3 seconds later, so just like on TV, you're going to have this delay. But today, our very, very special conversation is all about dashboards and measuring business success. Now, I brought Thomas here because this man is like Renaissance man. A friend of mine introduced us, Eva, who's on the Bizapalooza handle today, introduced us, and I have been blown away by like all your different interests, Thomas. So as folks are tumbling into the chat today, why don't you start by answering the simple question that I like to ask folks? What do you know for sure?
Wow. What do I know for sure? I know my wife is married to me.
That answer always, or that question always gets a great answer. That's what you know for sure?
I know that for sure. I know I'm 53. Well, no, I don't know that for sure. That's true. I know my children's names because I named them. So I like to think I know that for sure. I guess the only thing I know for sure, quoting from Meet Joe Black, is death and taxes.
And
that's my favorite movie.
And everything between now and taxes and death, right, is, I think, a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today is the dash, right? The success you build in between the time you're born and the time you die and everything that happens in between. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I've been working since I was 16. So I've been working for 37 years. So I've got a big, long dash.
What did you start doing at 16?
I started in a supermarket called Waitrose on the deli counter serving cheese and salami and ham.
What did you learn serving cheese and salami and ham working at the deli?
I learned that I eat too much food and I love food. But I also learned how customers like to start with ham and then have salami and then have their cheese and then have their cheesecake. And they like to do it in those, they like to go across the counter from the left to the right. And they, even when you know, because you soon learn what they all want to order. And I've got a very good memory. My wife calls it an autistic memory, but I have a very good memory. So I can even remember who had what from 1980, even now in 2017. Even though I knew what they all wanted, they still wanted to be able to tell me what they wanted, even though I knew. So, because even when I tried to serve them with when I saw them approaching, I'd get their order ready, but they still wanted to not have the order ready. They wanted to choose it themselves. So I learned to listen very carefully, and I learned to treat people really, really well. And I still do.
And where did you go from there?
There I went. After that, I worked on a farm. Then I worked for the Automobile Association, I guess like the AAA in the United States. I did some evening studies. I studied marketing and business and finance. Then I joined an advertising agency. Then I joined a computer company putting hard disks into Apple PCs, Apple IIes, way back then. And then at the age of 22, I broke into the market, if you like. Started working for Alan Sugar, as he was then, became Sir Alan Sugar, is now Lord Sugar. And I featured very prominently in his first book, the Amstrad story in 1990. I was there in 1986. And he really taught me my trade. And when you work for a billionaire for a few years, you soon learn that business is a system, is a game, is a puzzle. And your job is to solve the puzzle as best you can. And your score is how good you are at solving the puzzle. And every business is a different puzzle. And the people who solve it really well, like Google and Amazon and Facebook, they're the best puzzle solvers.
So I find it really fascinating that you've had this really broad journey. Out of that broad journey, what were some of the, would you say, defining moments? Now that you kind of look back from where you are right now to what brought you there, which would you say were defining moments that would have been what do you call it, foreshadowing of what you're doing?
Wow. Been so many of those. I would say particularly with a guy I worked with called Peter Allen in the early mid 1980s. He taught me about brand and stories and communication. So he was very much a defining moment. Alan Sugar, Lord Sugar as he is now, taught me about margins, taught me about cash. But I would say most importantly, he taught me about memory. I've got a fantastic memory. And he taught me about memory. Then I worked with Microsoft. I worked with Dell. I worked with NCR. I worked with. I would say understanding the technology industry from about 1986 onwards. Actually, earlier 1984, if you count Symbiotic. A real defining moment. A guy called Rodney Cox, who ran Symbiotic Computer Systems in Croydon. He said at the end of his speech, he said, the first person to come up and talk to me will get a job in the factory making hard disks. I didn't know what hard disks were in 1984 or 1983, whenever that was, 83 or 84. But what the defining moment was the fact the first person who came up to me. So I've always believed in the law of stepping forward. Always come forward and approach people. Because it can change your life. And that stepping forward, because I could have been second or third and wouldn't have got the job in the factory and wouldn't have learned how to make a hard disk and wouldn't have met Apple and wouldn't have entered the PC industry necessarily, perhaps a different way, was created this moment in my life of what I call the law of stepping forward. Always step forward when an opportunity is presented to you. So between 16 and 22, I had lots of defining moments. I would say other defining moments. In 1987, Tony Code and John Moore said to me, all roads lead to database. I remember thinking, oh my God, what does that mean? All roads lead to database. And I've been obsessed with databases ever since, and social media, social networking, blockchain, cryptocurrency. Everything is based on the database. I didn't know what that was in 1987. And so I would probably say once a year there is a defining moment, a defining sentence, a particular person, a particular piece of inspiration. But probably every 5 or 10 years there's a market shift. And I like to pick up on the market shifts, and they don't come along very often. And I saw those. I really saw that with the internet. Although I would say I was late to really pick up on it in detail. Sort of 94, 95, I got to grips with it. 96, I got very interested. 97, I became obsessed with it. 98, we launched a community called Academy that grew up to 650,000 members. My wife got the OBE from the Queen in 2014 for that. And I feel like now, back then, e-commerce was the defining thing, how we can do business on the internet. And right now, I think blockchain is the new e-commerce.
I was going to ask about that because I found, in fact, I was checking the newsfeed today, and there was, unlike you, I have like a mediocre at best memory. Right. So like some fake or someone said that he thought the whole Bitcoin and cryptocurrency thing was, you know, to be ignored because it's not centralized and there's no one in charge. And I'm like, I think that's the connection that I have between loving the cryptocurrency blockchain phenomenon, because it matches that of the internet. What inspired me about the internet was this ability for small people to suddenly have a voice.
Well, I think when you look at e-commerce and blockchain, they're actually very, very similar. Very, very similar. I know people will question the argument for this, but I feel in 2017, I'm reliving Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, the great movie with, what's he called? Punxsutawney Bill. What's the little...
Punxsutawney Phil, oh, now I can't remember, and that's in my neck of the woods.
So...
Groundhog.
E-commerce 1997, read blockchain 2017. They are roughly the same. If you go back to 1997, most people didn't believe the internet, e-commerce, Amazon, Google was just being born with Larry and Sergey. They were at university at that time. So there was a lot of embryonic organizations. Amazon floated in May 1997. Amazon's now 20 years old. So we're at the fledgling part of a new industry based on the blockchain, and most things will be based on the blockchain within the next 10 or 15 years. Most. But it's normal for people not to believe it, not to accept it, and to doubt it. And having seen it all before and reliving Groundhog Day now, where I go to the same events and just see the word e-commerce swapped for blockchain and all the other peripheral things around it, Internet of Things, IoT, AI.
Artificial, right.
They're all the peripheral things, but the underlying platform is transactions are moving onto a public ledger. And that is a massive change. The other thing is that somebody can pay you for your services as they do me, and they can pay me in Bitcoin, or they can pay me in Ethereum, or they can pay me in Ripple, and they can just send that data, that money, that token, that value from their phone to mine. I don't have to raise an invoice. They don't have to send a remittance, and the money, the token appears on the phone. And so it hasn't required a software system. It hasn't required a SaaS. It hasn't required an invoicing system, an accounting system, and it hasn't required to go through a bank. Now, transactions like that are considered artificial or fake or unreal, and the value is a Ponzi scheme, a scam. But I think when I look at Bitcoin and I look at Ethereum and I look at Ripple, I just see Amazon, Google, and Facebook all over again. Those big three are Google, Amazon, and Facebook being born. They're not believed, they're doubted, nobody understands them. But the big shift is they are decentralized, they're not centralized. So there isn't a Larry Page and a Sergey Brin, there isn't a Mark Zuckerberg, and there isn't a Jeff Bezos. There are just stories around Satoshi Nakamoto, stories about Vitalik Buterin, and stories about the guys at Ripple. What's his name? I want to say Carl Garlinghouse, but I've forgotten his first name. But I do see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple as very similar to Amazon, Google, Facebook. And so I don't mind the doubters and all the skeptics and all these impossible, and it's a fairy tale, and it's a Ponzi scheme, and it's a scam, and but I can tell you tokenomics is real. It's very real. And it's a booming industry over the next 20 years. I can easily see it going up 1,000 times, just like Amazon has in the last 20 years. But just like .com, we have to assume that 99% of them fail. And the 1% that get through, it's figuring out which are the 1%. And if you manage to hold the 1% in your portfolio and they're in your pension, good for you.
That's fantastic. And, so this is actually, this interest that you have, this is fascinating because it's all weaving together so beautifully, like a good stew.
I like to be called a good stew. I don't think anyone's called me that, Ivana, for a long time. TV, Thomas Power is a good stew. I'm sure that'll appear on the Twitter now. I can see it here.
Yeah. At least I know about your interest in cryptocurrency from your Twitter bio, but I also had followed you and you had quite an interest in influence. That's kind of how we got together. And the reason that we're talking is that you talked about measurement and dashboards and data and databases. So let's kind of transition our conversation, move it into databases and dashboards. How did you get interested in dashboards, and what value do they have to helping a business be successful?
Okay, so one of the boards I sit on is based in New Zealand, and they're called Nine Spokes, as in number nine. 5 and 4 is 9. Nine Spokes. Super company. Two fantastic founders, Adrian Grant and Mark Estelle. Fantastic guys based in Auckland. They invited me to join their board in 2014 to be their sort of digital board member, their social media board member, if you like. And they've created this dashboard that banks white label for their small business customers. And it is fantastic. And more banks are joining this dashboard and joining this community of SMEs and providing this information, business to business apps to their small businesses. And having had a lot of experience of building communities of small businesses online with Penny at Academy, it was a very easy decision when Adrian said, can Mark and I take you out to dinner in London and talk about this new business. And these guys are flying along. They've got 110 people. They've got 4 banks on board. They've got Deloitte on board. They're racing along, and I've got huge respect for them. And they've got a beautiful little product. And about 20,000 businesses are now using it. Last year, it listed on the Australian Stock Exchange on June the 9th, the ASX. And I really admire them. And it's great to work in an environment where you've got a software company supporting small businesses, albeit through the banks, the big businesses, through this white label dashboard. But what's lovely about it is it's all about supporting and growing small business. And Penny and I are deep fans and lovers of helping small business, self-employed, the sole trader grow, because there aren't many people who care for the little guy. Most of the focus is on the big guy. And one of the connection there to the cryptocurrency is cryptocurrency is, if you want a buzzword, it's the internet of money. It's IOM. It's money going open source. It's capital going open source. And it's not necessarily for the big guy or the big girl, in the sense that, yes, JP Morgan are going to sell Bitcoin and Ethereum. So are Goldman Sachs, so are Morgan Stanley. The whole of Wall Street is going to trade in these securities. Effectively, it is a security. It's just another asset class. But what crypto does, it helps the little guy, the little company, get up and create value and tokens around their business that they could never do before, raise money that they could never use before. Whilst it's more about tokens and raising money, it's liberating capital for the little guys. And raising money in North America, in Europe, anywhere in Asia, it's still very, very hard to raise money. It's very, very hard to borrow money. It's very, very hard to access high net worth individuals. It's very, very hard to tell the right story. And the story you tell determines the value that you raise. And what appeals to me is crypto is capital for everyone, every person and every little company. And right now, there's 20 million people who've got a crypto wallet. Out of 7 billion, we're not even at 1% of the population. And of those 20 million people with a wallet, perhaps 1 or 2. I'm just on a call.
Hello.
Hello.
So sorry, who sent you here?
Oh, somebody sent me here because there's a.
Who?
The lady on the main room up there. Yeah.
I'm really sorry. This room is set up for tomorrow morning.
Yeah. I'll return it to exactly how it was.
No, it's not about this. It's about no one is allowed to stay in the room. If it's no one, usually must speak with someone. I'm really sorry.
Okay, I'm on this conference call.
I'm so sorry, but no one told me about this. I can't find the people exactly in the room. I'm really sorry. This room is exactly for tomorrow morning. Someone must come to see the room. You must speak with me or someone in the staff.
Okay, can I speak with you now?
Now it's too late. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Ivana, it looks like I've got to leave the room. So
I see that. Talk about
see,
excellent customer service right there.
I'm getting kicked out of this room. So look, I'll have to keep the line open. And
I'm going to keep the line open for you. There you guys have it. There's some awesome customer service, and the small business owner gets kicked out of his conference room.
Now let's keep the line open, and I'll move.
I will.
Side.
Well, there you have it, guys. So Thomas is getting himself ready to relocate.
Yeah, you get the talking on other things.
That's right. We're just going to head over to the chat and we're going to see what's going on here. We are answering question number 3, which is how can we measure the success of a business beyond profit? I'm kind of looking forward to hearing your answers there. There's so much more to business success on the Bizapalooza chat. We are talking all about measuring business success. And I love that Andrea says that her commitment to the customer is what's important. In fact, while Thomas does that, I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see. If you're here on Facebook, you'll be able to see the chat right here on my desktop as we go through that. And I love that the recurring theme is learning experiences. Everyone is talking about how much they've learned and those defining moments that create what you're going to measure and how you measure your success. So I'm really, really curious to see what you guys have to say. Let's see. As the answers come tumbling in, people are chitty-chatting. Here we go. It says, Jim Katzman said that measuring yourself against a strategic plan with measurable objectives like an IEP. Very, very true. You set your goals, you measure them, you follow. Isn't that the thing that they say? What does it go? You can't grow what you don't measure. I think that is the recurring theme. And some other answers I really like. Success is profit, but how we get to profit is really, really important.
So, Ivana, I'm nearly back.
I see that.
I'm nearly back.
Thomas is getting himself all set up. And when he comes back, we're going to start talking about dashboards and how you actually measure success. Look at him. Hey, it's great that you were
so I'm
on
back. I just want to show people that's the London Capital Club.
Awesome.
Which is one of the oldest clubs in London. But because I'm on a call, I've been kicked out. So here I am with 200,000 Twitter followers, and we know it's worth nothing to the London Capital Club. So there you go. Life is not as people expect. But here we go.
But you're on the streets of London, and it's looking like a lovely evening there.
It's a lovely evening. And here you are. You can start to see the City of London. And we're live doing a conference call as we're walking along. I didn't even know this was possible with this technology. Now I need to find somewhere. So I found a nice, here we go. I found a nice church. There's a nice church.
Is it cold? Oh, it's St. Mary's.
Yeah, so I know St. Mary will keep me safe. So keep going, Ivana.
All right, Thomas. So I know that you were excited about doing this 9 Spokes project and you're excited about helping small businesses achieve success. But let's talk about some of the things like why are dashboards important and why did you like 9 Spokes over? I mean, there's dashboards all over. What makes 9 Spokes different?
Okay, so the reason I like it so much is because when you're running a business, it's very, very hard to keep all of your data on a single screen. And if you think about all the different parts of your business coming in, you've got your P&L and your cash flow. But other than your P&L and your cash flow, payment of suppliers, you've also got all your followers that join you on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. You've got everybody you have to pay. You've got your payroll. You've got your retail purchases. And what 9 Spokes have done is they've taken all of the different business apps, 36 of them, and put them into these 9 categories. So effectively 9 fours, 4 apps per category. You can see the whole of your business on your mobile phone across all of these different apps. And I hadn't seen anybody do that before in 2014. So I thought, wow, I'm going to join them and help them build that business. And they're flying along. They're terrific. They're a terrific little business. And you don't expect these businesses to come out of a place like Auckland in New Zealand, but they do. And a lot of people think of New Zealand, they think of The Hobbit and the America's Cup. But this is a software company that's flying along. And I really think it's because they put all the data, they brought it all together and just stuck it all on one page, on your mobile, on your tablet, on your desktop. I don't think many of the dashboards have done that for small businesses.
I think that's such a great point.
I was going to say, by white labeling it through bank, when you work through a bank is a natural trust point for a small business. It's the normal place for them to go to get advice, knowledge, support, money, capital transfers. But it's a place of trust, the bank, because it's a brand. And love them or hate them, but the banks are very, very good at their mobile apps, and they're very, very good at their desktop applications in terms of payments and credits and so on. But to put all the data together, all of your social data, your retail data, your supplier data, your supply chain data, everything that comes into an organization, into a single dashboard, banks could only do that with a partner, and most of the banks are choosing 9-spokes. So I think the fact that many banks are choosing 9-spokes means they must have built the best dashboards, at least so far. And of course, yes, there's lots of competition, but competition is part of the market. So I always welcome competition.
What are some other measures of success? I love that we've been kind of talking about history and future at the same time. And so what are some different kinds of measures of success? Yes, profit, but maybe some of these other day-to-day things, especially when you've got a startup or you're growing your business. Are there other measures of success that a small business owner should be tracking?
Yeah, I think certainly. If you look in terms of social media, a lot of people use social media to communicate with the market now, right?
Correct.
And people are building followers on Snapchat. They're building followers on Instagram. They're building followers on Facebook. They're building followers on LinkedIn. They're building followers on Twitter. And people are building followers, audiences, whatever you want to call that media of an audience, because people are spread across all of these different social media now. Well, I think it's very important to compare followers to revenue, or audience to revenue, followers to profit, or audience to profit, because I think they're directly related. The size of your following directly relates to your revenue. And therefore, you should compare what you're achieving in terms of your e-commerce, your Google SEO, your social following. Compare all of that against your revenue, your profit, and your net margin. And I don't think a lot of people do that yet, but I think they will, or they do, once they've been taught or told, oh yeah, I should look at revenue. Yeah, I should look at income to followers. I should look at profit to followers. I should look at margin to followers, because everybody now is competing for audience. Attention is the product. Everybody is a television show. Everyone is a radio show. Everybody is now a media. Whatever small business they're in, and all of these businesses that I'm sitting around here outside this beautiful church, the Harry's Bar here and the Vintry here, they're all having to compete on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google+, Snapchat. They're all having to compete on all of these different platforms all the time for audience. And it's important to measure audience, I think, against revenue and profit.
I think that's really interesting that you say that. I think you're the first person that I've heard make that direct correlation between audience and followers and revenue, because remember, there was the whole thing of like, how does being on social media make me money? And then we were saying, I don't know, that's the wrong question. Maybe you shouldn't be asking that. But it sounds like you've actually gone back to making that correlation. Now, one of the things you're really known for is something called Clout 70. Talk a little bit about what that's about.
Yeah, so in 2008, a guy called Joe Fernandez created Clout, Clout.com. I'm a big fan of it. Lots of people hate Clout. I happen to love it because it measures your social media activity. It doesn't really measure your influence, although they think it does. It actually measures how active you are, and it averages out your score on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Foursquare, all these different platforms, and gives you a score out of 100. Barack Obama has a score of 99. Donald Trump has a score of 94. Hillary Clinton has a score of 88. Mark Andreessen has a score of 87. I've got a score of 79. Someone else has got a score of 60. One of the things I soon realized is the people who had a score of 70 plus were the most active and typically the most skilled, and has also been through all the pain of dealing with trolls and abuse and hassle and all the, dare I say, the shitty part of social media that happens to everybody at one stage in their lives. And so I created a hashtag called Clout70. I created a group on WhatsApp called Clout70. I tweeted it out there. I put it on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus, and it just sort of built up. And now I've got an army of Clout70 specialists around the world who I recommend are put into jobs and gigs to deliver for different boards I work for or different clients that ask me, who should I speak to about this? And I try and have a specialist in every city in the world, so I can point people, go and talk to Susan or David or Sarah, whoever it may be. It got picked up in the Telegraph, the UK Daily Telegraph. A big article was posted, that got retweeted. And then the Clout70 hashtag became its own kind of meme. I got even more abuse from more trolls about how bad it was and how shitty Clout was and so on. But I just thought I just pushed on through all of that and kept building the group. And now there's lots of specialists around the world who I recommend who've got the ability to deliver an audience. And I find anyone who's got a Clout score over 70 is a real professional, a real player. And the skeptics and the doubters, all of which I love, if they're out there, to all of you, you keep me motivated, keep trolling, keep pushing. That it can be gamed, that you can game Clout, you can fool it, you can trick it. And that's true, you can, because you can get hyperactive on all these systems and drive your score up. But if you, you're a superstar, thank you. So I know you don't. There's my lovely man, look at that. He's so generous, he even brought me my cable. Thank you. So look at that. He kicked me out and then he brought me my cable. I wonder whether your video actually has appeared on the Twitter stream and that's why he suddenly turned nice. Nasty. Anyway, there it is. I've got my cable from my my phone.
Oh, thank goodness.
So yeah, the whole reason to have Clout70 was have a network of specialists, and I've got a group, and there's I don't know whether you know, but WhatsApp groups max out at 256 people. So I've got 250 specialists in a WhatsApp group that I can recommend to different people around the world when they ask me. And because I'm kind of got a reputation as someone who knows everybody, even though that's not true, but I'm kind of like directory inquiries. People say, oh, Thomas, who should I speak to about this? And who should I speak to about that? Who should I speak to about AI? Who should I speak to about blockchain? Who should I speak about social media? I can normally answer all of those questions because I've got about 30 groups on WhatsApp now of about 250 people. So I've got a group of specialists in every topic in the world. And I just fit that in around my life.
So I think it's fascinating that you're actually drawing this correlation between success on social to success in business.
Oh, definitely.
What do you say? What do you say to people that say, well, I know lots of people who are popular on social or companies who are big on social, but maybe aren't very profitable. Is that a fallacy?
No, it's not a fallacy. It can easily be true. It just means they don't understand the puzzle. A lot of people are very good at building audiences, but they're not good at making money. A lot of people are good at making money, but they're not very good at building audiences. To solve the puzzle, you've got to solve both. And the master of solving the social puzzle is Mark Zuckerberg. If you look at the fact he's got 2 billion people on Facebook and he's got a $40 billion revenue, if you divide 40 billion by 2 billion, you can work out the revenue per user. That's a very good benchmark to build from. So why change from his model? And he's the person who's worked out the winner of the game is the one with all the names, and the one with all the names gets all the advertising, and the one who gets all the advertising gets an average revenue per user per year, which he illustrates with 2 billion users and $40 billion of revenue. And he's growing so quickly. And because Google missed out on the whole social thing after many, many failed attempts, but they did try really hard, he's going to steal probably about $100 billion of revenue into Facebook by, let's see, 40 now, 40. He's probably going to get there as early as 2022, 2023. And that's all lost revenue that Microsoft could have had, that Apple could have had, that Intel could have had, that Google could have had. but they didn't understand the puzzle. So the people who have a lot of audience and don't make any money haven't solved the puzzle. Business is about solving puzzles, cracking the code. And if you haven't cracked it, then you won't have the income to match whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And
Well, you just made me think.
It's just a game. It's just a game. Business is a giant game, and you have to practice and get good at it.
And you just made me think of something really, really important as I was listening to you. It takes a certain kind of thinking to say the things that you've said and do the kind of analysis that you've just kind of done right one off. It made me think that it's one thing, you know, folks have dashboards, and I know lots of businesses who get reports, but they're, like you said, they're not skilled at like reading these reports and understanding what the data is telling them. What advice do you have to small business owners who are looking at a dashboard? Like, what kind of advice would you give them as to how to read the dashboard?
Yeah, well, I think you have to. One of the things I've learned from working with Nine Spokes is that a lot of people can't actually read a dashboard, and I didn't know that. A lot of people can't read a bar chart, but they can read a pie chart because they understood a pie chart at school. They didn't understand a bar chart at school, so I didn't know that. So I guess a lot to do is with your basic understanding of images, maths, and numbers. Fortunately for me, I love maths and numbers and figures, as people who know me will testify. But I think if you presented with a dashboard for the first time and you see all of these numbers on a screen, on your phone or on your desktop, and you go, wow, that looks good. And it does look good. The Nine Spokes dashboard looks beautiful. But you've still got to sit there and absorb it. And it's probably best to have somebody teach you that initially. Either the relationship manager in the bank branch where you've got the system from, or from a peer who was already using it, another member of the Nine Spokes community who's using it in your town where you are, and there's lots of those now. Or go on a course and learn how. But I would say a lot of people don't know how to read data properly. Those are people who can read data and dashboards and information often don't know what decision to make. They get so much choice, they can't choose. And a little bit like when you go into Starbucks and they present you with 40 muffins. When there's 40 there, you never know which one to choose. When there's 2 there, you just go, I'll have that one. And so you can have overchoice with data as well. So I would say make sure when you're building your Nine Spokes dashboard up, you don't have too many apps. 5 or 6 apps is enough to get you started. And so it just fills one screen of your dashboard or one screen of your phone. So you can see it all in a glance. And if you can't interpret it, get some help. But we provide all that help and teaching as part of the service anyway to the banks and the small businesses. But make sure you get some education on how to interpret the numbers and interpret them and then choose to make a decision, just one simple decision. Because often find if you have too much data, you can't make a decision and you end up procrastinating. So it's better just to make one simple decision, test it based on the data, see if it works, and then see if the data changes in your dashboard and your business performance improves. If it doesn't improve, it's not necessarily the wrong decision. It just means that it wasn't implemented the right way. So there's a lot of things to check there. But I would say the biggest problem challenging people with data generally and technology is a lack of education about how to use all these things. I mean, you've taught me, Ivana, how to use Zoom, which is a phenomenal product. But until this evening, I've never seen it before. But it's a fantastic product. But Sunday night, I spent an hour learning how to use it because I was thinking, crumbs, if we're doing this call tonight, I need to make sure I know how to use it. And so I learned how to use it on my phone and I learned how to use it on my desktop. I had to put that hour aside to learn it, but I'm fast on tech, but it still took me an hour to get my head around it. So I think you have to do the same with dashboards and data and provide the education service so that people can get their heads around all of this stuff, because there's so much of it and it's coming at us so fast. And that's before the blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple and AI and IoT. And all of that's coming over the hill straight away like a giant tech wave.
So what is your one piece of advice that you have to share with our audience or small business owners as they try to wrestle with, we're in October, so this is planning time. People are thinking about planning for their business. They're thinking about trends. They're trying to answer a lot of these questions. So what is the one thing you want to leave everyone with this evening?
Well, I'm an obsessive reader, and researcher. So I would say make sure when you check your numbers for last year, however you're defining your last year, make sure your numbers are accurate. Make sure your analysis of where you are is accurate. Whatever data you're checking, whether it's your social media data, your financial data, your market research data, any external qualitative data, any net promoter score data, either from clients or suppliers or from staff members, employees, colleagues in your firm. Make sure it's accurate before you start to make a decision, and make sure you've got enough of it before you start to make a decision, because I find a lot of people make decisions based on half-baked data. And I know from working with Alan Sugar, Lord Sugar, as he is now, he always used to say to me, have you checked? Have you checked? Have you checked the data? Have you checked the information? Have you got all the information? Are you sure you've got all the information? It used to terrify me, because I used to think, God, he's bound to know something I don't know. What is it he knows that I haven't got? And he's a fantastic researcher and user of data back then in 1986. So I would say for any business, big or small, but particularly for small, a lot of small businesses go on gut feel, and gut feel can be right and can help, but make sure all of your data is accurate before you start to analyze it, and before you then turn that analysis into a decision. And then when you choose to make a decision, just test a few things at a time. Don't try and test a lot of things at once, because otherwise you can't see whether you've got an improvement in performance.
Perfect. Well, on that note, I'm going to let you get back to your networking event. I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing all your information, especially from the beautiful streets of London.
And from St. Mary's Church.
And from St. Mary's Church. I feel like I've just traveled across the pond in 10 minutes. It's amazing. And
to the guys at Zoom, great product, guys. Great product. Best one I've seen in a long time. Well chosen, Ivana.
Well, thank you. And there you have it, guys. We're going to wrap up this live session of Bizzapalooza Chat, but make sure you head over to the Twitter stream, where there is a big conversation happening. Thomas Power, thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a real honor. Pleasure. Thank you, Ivana.
Bye-bye.